Hey, beautiful family. You know, in my small role in this epic journey of mankind, I've made a decision to try and bring as much love as I can into the world. And I every day give thanks and send love to everyone who supports us and makes what we do a reality, you guys. But I think sometimes in this chaotic world, it's nice for us to engage a verbal confirmation of that. Sometimes we need that. So I'm going to do that more often, and I want to send an abundance of my love to you guys today. And whomever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a peaceful day. Now, what I want to speak about is another emotive topic for many. And that is that right now, there is only one way for us to alter our human direction. There's one way to alter the direction of civilization, one way to alter the direction of society, and many are refusing to accept it. They refuse point blank because they want to continue playing the game that our ancestors have played, and that is self-awakening. Now, what is awakening? First of all, let's define that. Awakening is not waking up to the fact that the system is unjust. Awakening is not waking up to the fact that some people have been lying. Awakening is waking up to you. It's waking up to where the root of these problems are. It's waking up to the illusion of the fragmented reality that we create by integrating thought, the incessant thought. And yesterday I wrote on my Instagram that I put a video of a beautiful sky and there was a hawk flew out of a tree whilst I was doing it, and it was so profoundly beautiful. But I said, I know that's beautiful instantaneously. It requires no thought, it requires no words. I instantaneously know. There's that beauty. And so, when you instantaneously know it, we are there. We are in an awakened state of being, and sustaining that is of vast importance. Now, many people will still argue, but there are these people and they're doing something to us in our system that I don't like. So what are we coming together in opposition to or in the name of is the most important question there. So many of these persons are not conscious of what they are coming together against. So if we are saying that society has corruption, has disingenuousness, has manipulation, then what are we coming together in opposition of? Are we coming together in opposition of a minority of human beings who just so happen at this point in time to be behaving in that way? Well, we can immediately see that's delusional, because throughout our recorded history and beyond, humans have behaved that way. So we are not coming together against a one-off anomaly inside of our human journey. It's not just in this time that this is happening, it's ongoing. So you can eradicate that idea. If you think you're coming together against a group of people who are misbehaving and you would behave better, you are in a delusional state, because it's not reality. We've done it before and we will do it again if we don't see it. And this is just a factual, it's not my view, it's a factual happening on the planet. And so then is it the behavior of those humans which is getting better into it, it's getting into a more deeper understanding? Is it that we are seeing the actions, the expression of corruption, of lies, of manipulation, of inequality, of driving fear into our homes with the media? Are these the behaviors that we are coming together in opposition of? And if we are, what are we coming together to ask for? Because if you're coming together saying, I don't want this corruption and dishonesty, etc. in my world, then you must be coming together and asking for something else. And that something else is actually truth and openness and compassion. Because all these other actions are non-compassionate. That's what they are. They lack heart resonance. They're non-compassionate to manipulate one another. Now, there might be some persons in their thoughts who are, as I mentioned before, believing that what they are doing is compassionate. Perhaps they believe that the humans are an animal that will not evolve fast enough, And so because they'll keep murdering and raping one another and hurting one another, we have to use technology, and we have to cheat them into this technology so as we can eradicate that behavior from them. Perhaps they're worried that humans are going to destroy this beautiful planet, so we have to use technology to restrain them from doing so. They might feel that what they are doing is compassionate, but the very element of the fact that they are not standing in truth, the Spirit of truth, Christians call the Holy Spirit the Spirit of truth, that the truth of things must be presented. And so if they believe that and are not standing in truth, it's a non-compassionate resonance still. And so what are we coming together in opposition to? Okay, some behaviors that humans do, but what does that mean we are coming together in opposition of? And then if you look deeper, you can say, well, that's part of human nature. Because again, this is ongoing, this problem. It's not just now. And so in our history, we have this corruption and so on and so forth. We know it's not just certain humans at this point in time, because humans have done it before. We know that this behavior doesn't exist just now, and we know by opposing that behavior, we're asking for a different something. Now you can look at it and say, okay, do those behaviors fall under human nature? Which is what all spiritual messiahs and masters have tried to tell you. You have a spirit and a flesh, a higher self and a lower self, a compassionate self and a non-compassionate self. And so if we come to that conclusion that it's actually human nature that we are coming together in opposition of, if we get really conscious just by asking those questions, that's what we are coming together in opposition of. And when we enter into that state of realizing that, then we have to ask the question, how do we transform it? Because obviously, if we are not acknowledging that if we acknowledge it's human nature, which I think we must do at some point. Now, whether you believe those humans are just behaving human based on their own psychological shadow, or whether they are behaving how they are because of spiritual influence, no matter the paradigm, it's still human behavior. And so the solution comes through the human behavior. If our roots are in non-compassionate energy, our fruits are expressed as non-compassionate civilization and expressions of that. Guys, I'd just like to quickly interrupt this video to say we are having a bit of a battle with our animal rescue shelter in Tanzania. Many of you know we have the shelter. There's more than 100 rescue dogs living there at the moment, and they come from horrendous circumstances. Aside from those that are hit by vehicles, we have dogs that were attacked with machetes, starved on the streets, shot, hung. Unbelievable events happen to these beautiful beings, and the amount of suffering that they go through is quite profound. Having them inside the shelter, for me, is, aside from helping these individual dogs that I know, I feel raising the vibration of the planet to a huge degree. And I feel like this is a very practical way to do that, is to help those that are in a deep state of suffering that we can help. At the moment, because we have not had any fundraisers and we have certain sponsorships that haven't happened due to the pandemic restrictions, we are having a little bit of a struggle. So I'm just interrupting this to say, if you have a heart for dogs, like I do, and you feel like you would be able to help out in some way, please go and check out the website. Maybe you can do some fundraising for us, or you can share some support, or you could sponsor one of the dogs, and in sponsoring them it helps us to cover their food, their medical bills, and also the care costs. Also remember, holistic approach that we do, some of the caregivers for the dogs, the staff that look after them, are single parents who have alcohol addiction or drug addiction or have special needs children, etc. So it's a fully holistic approach, and it helps more than just the dogs when you do support it. So that was all. Thank you for the love and support, and please guys, keep being awesome. We can't help anyone in Tanzania without you, and it's your love that the foundation of all of Share Tanzania and Kilimanjaro Animal Rescue is built on. Bye. And so, when we look at the leaders and we say we need to take them out of power, so let's play that fallacy out. Let's take every world leader, every billionaire who doesn't do what we want them to do, every power structure that is going in this direction and that direction, and put them all in an island where they can't express themselves. Now where do we go? Do we take more human beings and say, you do it? What makes us believe that these are the humans who have gone to the island, that the persons we replace them with are not subjected to the same temptations and problems and human flaws that they were? And if you externalize it and say, oh no, this is because these guys are evil, this means you're really not integrated in your shadow, because whatever they've done, you can do too. Whether it's under the influence of the psyche, of the shadow, or of spiritual aspects of consciousness that are negatively whispering to them, lower vibrations and higher vibrations, just trying to guide it all. Still, the human is at the pinnacle of all of that going on in that energy. And so those that we put in will be in that same space. So what I have to come to the conclusion of is that if you're going to take these persons out, which is obviously not going to happen, it's not going to be the way that things occur, then we have to replace them with people who have a rooting in a more compassionate place. And this is actually what we are seeking, because when we come together in opposition of corruption, opposition of dishonesty, we're coming together in the pursuit of a true and honest society. And the reason we can't have one is we agree to that with the thought identity, and the thought identity can agree to compassion, can agree to love, can agree to truth, but it cannot express it because it creates a separation from it. Because it's not awake. The thought identity is not an awakened state. Pure attention requires zero thought. We have no need for thought when we are pure attention. And it is only in pure attention that we find ourselves entering a state of peace. And it's now necessary that we ask another question. This is how I would do it. If we are looking for a truthful, honest society, we are looking for a society rooted in compassion. Now, agreeing to compassion intellectually doesn't give you the compassion that you need to bring this expression into the world. And the reason for that is when you agree with thought, you agree with the ego. And when you agree with thought and the ego, then realistically your actions will always pursue somewhere, be it quietly or not, the expression of the ego and its need to feel peace. Now the catch-22 is that the ego cannot feel peace. The ego is thought moving, asking questions, trying to find a settled space, and it will never find it. It'll say this, say that, oh maybe I should do that, maybe I shouldn't do that. And this voice is always trying to find a settled space for you, and it's only when you get rid of the voice that you find that settled space. And so because the voice can't find a settled space, because it's not awakened into its true state of peace, it seeks pleasure to try and substitute that peace that comes from within. This is the difference between a worldly person and a spiritual person, awakened or not. And the spiritually awakened will find it from within. And so when a spiritually awakened person is awakened to the pure attentive state, it's not that John is paying attention. John's not there. It's just attention on the ever unfolding present moment. Be still and know that I am God. And when you get to this point, you feel so much rooting in this peaceful state that you begin to vibrate, you begin to have this frequency of compassion and love. And those who stay in thought, trying to find its center by asking questions and looking on the internet for an answer, those who refuse to leave that identity can't root in the peace. And because they can't root in the peace, they can't be part of the transformation of society, because they will keep opposing persons who are also not rooted in peace. So we have world leaders who are terribly egoic, fearful, power hungry. They have plenty of money to throw missiles and bombs at innocent people, but never any to feed them. They are not rooted in the state of awakened compassion, in pure attention. They're not there. They're rooted in the collective chaos of believing that they are the identity that was assigned to them to allow them to move around inside our municipalities. We have the municipalities. We need to keep census on how many people are using the water and the sewerage system and need food, and people are breaking the law, so we need to track where they are. And then we start to believe this identity we had to give ourselves to track all of that. We start believing it's who we are. And the longer civilization is going on without an antidote to that, the more chaotic and the more ridiculous it's becoming. It's a state of perpetual insanity. And so, if you want to fix that problem, it's the duty of the individual, in my view, to awaken. Because when they awaken, they will root themselves in compassion. And right now, people are rooted in the non-compassionate identity, because the thought form identity cannot find the peace to generate the state of pure attention to allow the compassion to be a learning and an experience. And so the thought form identity of us, who are trying to change it with the thought form identity, I'm in opposition to oppression, I'm in opposition to tyranny, I'm seeking justice. They are all concepts of the thought form identity that they cannot find a solution to, because the origin of them is below the thought form identity. The root of them all is away from the non-compassionate thought form human identity. Now, in the thought form identity, it doesn't mean that you can't agree with compassion. You can look at it and go, but that is what I want. I know it's what I want: compassion, truth, and honesty. And agreeing with it intellectually is what religion has done. And this is why we have cathedrals and churches that have not been able to awaken people into the state that people like Jesus Christ told us we could have on the planet. Because they agree with it with thought. When you agree with it with thought, you don't root yourself in it and learn it as an experience. You don't have the experience of compassion without any thought, just the direct present moment awareness of pure attention and compassion coming through there. And this is our natural state. And if we look at a tree, people who root in the thought form identity are like a tree that's uprooted from the ground, and it can't, because of that, produce sweet fruits. It produces vile fruits that are tainted and bitter, and they corrupt everything around them. And the tree's running around without its roots in the soil, looking for where to put its roots so as it can have those sweet fruits. And instead it's rooted elsewhere in this confused identity. And the reason it can't root itself in the soil is because it's got a layer of thought between it and the soil. So when it eliminates the layer of thought, the tree's roots go into the soil. When humanity eliminates its thought, we root into the same space as a tree roots into the soil for its sanity. And as the tree roots, it brings forth sweet fruits. If it's not rooted because of a layer of thought, it brings forth undesirable fruits. And so humans, when we root ourselves in that place, this is our original space to root, the light of silence, that thoughtless, attentive state without the thought identity, without that poison that makes us feel that we are not connected to that one expression of life around us. And so when we root there, just as a tree, orange is an orange, or it's a tree, apple's an apple, or it's Brazil nut's a Brazil nut. Right now, if a human roots themselves outside beyond the layer of thought, they will fruit their fruit. I had no intention of making a charity that helps so many children, none, in my life. But what I did do was I sought to root myself in the presence of spirit in the superconsciousness. And then, because I got rooted in that stillness, I felt compassion as an experience, and I had enough finally to share compassion. I had enough vitality as well to do something with it, because my thoughts weren't dragging me off into all these different things that drain our vitality. And so, as a tree, orange is an orange. As I became rooted in the correct soil for myself, I charitied a charity. And that charitying a charity, that motion is what we are all needing to do. We all need to fruit our fruits. But right now, because we are refusing to leave the identity we have in the matrix, the thought form identity, we can't find the roots. With a tree running around on a surface of thought. And as the tree runs on this layer of thought, it can't find the soil. So its fruits are tainted and rotten. And then when it eliminates the layer of thought and it roots in the soil, its fruits become sweet and clear, and their purpose is there. So long as it runs on the layer of thought, its fruits are confused and panicked and anxious, and it doesn't know where to put them. And this is us. This is where we are. We are the tree running around on a layer of thoughts, and we are seeking where to get in there. And when we get into it, when we root in there, the very thing that we're coming together in the name of, a compassionate, loving society, can happen. Because we wake up to the cause of it. We wake up to our own nature, our own shadow. We wake up to the fact that all of this dwells in our thought. We wake up to the fact that we refuse to do as Christ asked, I came to do not my own will, but the will of the one who sent me. What is your own will? It's the illusion of your thought identity trying to muscle it yourself. And so when we come through all of that and we sink in to that inner chasm of the light of silence, and we meet spirit, and it's there, and we no longer need to seek pleasure to make us feel some peace, because our thoughts have gone which are making us feel the separation from the peaceful state. Then our roots can go into those depths of consciousness where they draw up compassion as an experience. Not as John being compassionate, but as a tree compassioning compassion. Then you must enter that state, and you must be the human who is compassioning compassion. Full attention, no thought, no identity, just the channel of that. And the very second you try to bring in identity, or you try to be John being compassionate, the ego will start. And it's like an oil lamp burning so bright. And every time you enter a thought, you put a little bit of soot on the glass. Every time you add your identity, you put soot on the glass. And every time you do that, the spirit which wants us to reach the light coming from your lamp can't connect and pull you and show you where to go. Because you are covering it. You are covering it. You are covering it with the shadow of the thought form identity. And this is why we cannot transform society unless we individually today make our priority the awakening to the compassionate state away from the non-compassionate. And we acknowledge and we see that we can't intellectually agree. We can't with thought agree to compassion and expect it to come to the world. We must get rid of that. We must get rid of the thought agreement, and we must root in it and express it through pure attention. And this is the best analogy I could possibly have given you, is that tree running on a layer of thought, unable to get its roots in. That's what we are doing when we try to oppose the system based on thought. We must do it based on transformation. And transformation will not come from a concept like justice. It won't come from a concept of opposition. It'll come from the rerouting of humanity into a state of sanity and compassion.